Hey, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk. So we're going to do a contest entry. This time it's Robert from Robert's on My Turntable. So his contest is focused around the idea of showing 5 different albums that were important to you as a teenager. So for me, I became a teenager in 1982 and stopped being a teenager in 1989. So you can see the time frame is going to basically be 80s music. And those of you that have watched my channel, I've recently done a series where I did a record for every year of my life, which I broke up by decades. So I'll stick up a card somewhere with the link to my video from the 80s. I tried to pick different albums for this particular video that I didn't use on that one. I'm going to show a lot of cassettes in this because, frankly, tape cassettes were my primary format in the 1980s. I will show some CDs and some vinyl that I've gotten later on representing those groups as well. But I kind of broke it up into for my sense, 3 different time periods. 82 through 84, kind of me being 13 to 15, 85 to 87, sort of 16, 17, and then 88, 89, 18, 19. So that's when I would have gone away to college. So to give you some background, I grew up in a small town in the Mountain West. Basically, record shopping was at the Kmart. There was a bigger town a few hours away that actually had like proper record stores. Obviously, ordering stuff on the internet wasn't really an option at that point of time. So the 82 through 84, me being 13 to 15, that's kind of me breaking away from my parents' music. I had youngish parents, so they actually liked a lot of classic rock, but I mean, they weren't into punk or metal or anything like that. So I started getting into like Def Leppard, Pyromania, which came out in 1983. I actually don't have the cassette anymore. I have gotten that on CD. That's one that I've never upgraded to vinyl. And then Van Halen, 1984. So this is actually kind of like the first album where I really paid attention to Van Halen. This is, of course, the last album of the David Lee Roth era. And I went back at that point and got all the other Van Halen records. I've gotten a couple of the Van Halens on vinyl recently. I don't think I'm going to get I think there's supposed to be like expensive one steps coming out, which I don't think I'm going to get for Van Halen. So this is the kind of stuff that me and my friends, that was kind of like, if you weren't a cowboy and in the country, then you were listening to classic rock and hard rock and metal in my town. I could have shown like some Iron Maiden or some Judas Priest as well, but I got a little dissatisfied with that. I have a bit of a contrarian outsider outlook, and so sort of your 80s punk and alternative, which wasn't a scene at all in my town, but I read a little bit about, and sort of our bands could be your life sort of music. The first one of those groups that I really got into was Husker Du. I'm showing Candy Apple Gray because this is the first Husker Du album I ever got. I bought this cassette at a record store in a shopping mall in 1986, which had better selection than my hometown's Kmart. I have this one on CD. I haven't gotten this one on vinyl yet. If I'm going to show you some Husker Du vinyl, this would be the next one, Warehouse Songs and Stories, that I got a few years back. It was a record store day issue. And then as I transitioned into college in the late 80s, so now I'm like 18, 19 years old, a lot of the British groups, The Cure, The Smiths, New Order, all those sorts of groups, I really got into, along with like American bands like the Pixies and Soundgarden and Jane's Addiction. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to show you New Order, Substance, 1987. 1987 happened to be the year I graduated high school and went away to college. Recently, I've picked up, I know Rachel showed this on her stream, the Factory Communications box set, which includes lots of material from that label, including obviously some New Order and some Joy Division. And then another group, sort of my entry into Susie and the Banshees, was actually Peep Show, 1988. This got a lot of airplay on like MTV, 120 minutes. And when I was going full bore into like alternative and sort of turning my back on sort of the meat and potatoes rock that the people in my hometown liked, I really got into Susie and worked backwards through her catalog. Something that I picked up recently is this vinyl reissue of the Once Upon a Time, the singles comp, with some of her great material from the late 70s and early 80s that I was blissfully unaware of at the time that it actually came out. So there you go, some records. Def Leppard, Pyromania, Van Halen, 1984, Husker Du, Candy Apple Grey, New Order, Substance, Susie and the Banshees, Peep Show. 5 records that came out when I was a teenager.